Many companies that are prominent in the world today were once supporters of the Nazi regime during World War II. While there are numerous companies that fall into this category, the following 10 businesses stand out not only for their involvement, but also for their continued success in the modern era. Some of these companies were heavily involved in producing weapons and military supplies for the Nazis, while others profited immensely from the use of forced and slave labor, including concentration camp inmates. While it's important to recognize that some companies were pressured into cooperating with the Nazis, those who willingly engaged in unethical practices, like employing slave labor, crossed serious moral lines. Here's a look at 10 major companies that helped the Nazis and continue to operate today. 10. Associated Press. The Associated Press, one of the most well-known news agencies worldwide, had a less admirable role in the years leading up to World War II. While it is now regarded for its journalistic integrity, AP made a troubling agreement with the Nazi regime in the 1930s. This deal allowed the AP to remain operational in Germany after many other foreign media outlets had been expelled by the Nazis. The arrangement ensured that the AP could continue reporting from within Germany, but at the price of cooperating with the Nazi government. As part of the deal, the AP agreed not to publish any information that could be seen as critical of the regime. In fact, AP employed Nazi-approved journalists and frequently published Nazi propaganda in its international reports, which often included anti-Semitic content. This collaboration was exposed years later, and while the AP has denied any intentional collaboration, stating it was under extreme pressure from the Nazi government, the fact remains that it played a role in furthering Nazi messaging. The AP has since acknowledged the complexities of its position during the war, but continues to deny deliberate cooperation. 9. Audi. Audi, now a luxury automotive powerhouse, has a controversial history tied to its previous incarnation as Auto Union during the Third Reich. During the war, Auto Union struck a deal with the SS that allowed them to use forced labor, including prisoners from concentration camps. Research conducted in 2014 showed that Auto Union relied on at least 3,700 enslaved workers from several camps operated by the SS. In addition to the workers provided directly by the SS, Auto Union also employed over 16,000 forced laborers in its production facilities. These prisoners worked in horrendous conditions, often leading to death. One facility in Bavaria, where the company manufactured parts for military vehicles, saw at least 4,500 of these enslaved workers perish. Auto Union's participation in Nazi war efforts also included producing military equipment for the Wehrmacht, and by the war's end, as much as 20% of the company's workforce consisted of concentration camp prisoners. Audi's leadership claims it was unaware of the extent of the company's wartime activities until after the release of the report, prompting the company to set up a fund to compensate the survivors and their descendants. 8. Bayer. Bayer, the pharmaceutical giant known for products like aspirin, has a much darker history when it comes to its involvement with the Nazi regime. At the time, Bayer was part of the IG Farben conglomerate, a massive industrial enterprise that played a pivotal role in supporting the Nazi war effort. IG Farben was a major producer of synthetic fuel and rubber, as well as chemicals used in the production of weapons. However, Bayer's involvement went beyond industrial production. The company used prisoners from concentration camps as forced laborers and even conducted cruel medical experiments on them. At Auschwitz, Bayer operated a chemical plant where human experiments were carried out under horrific conditions. In one particularly grim instance, concentration camp inmates were deliberately infected with diseases such as tuberculosis for drug testing purposes. Bayer's scientists worked alongside notorious Nazi doctors, including Joseph Mengele, and engaged in ethically abhorrent practices with little regard for the lives of their test subjects. After the war, IG Farben was dissolved, but Bayer survived as an independent company. Despite the efforts to make amends by contributing to compensation funds for Holocaust survivors, Bayer's role in these atrocities remains a significant part of its legacy. 7. Chase National Bank. Now a global financial giant under the name JP Morgan Chase, Chase National Bank had troubling ties to Nazi Germany during World War II. Chase, like many other major banks, was involved in various financial transactions that benefited the Nazi regime. One notable program Chase helped facilitate was the sale of special Reichsmarks to American citizens of German descent. This scheme, which offered discounted currency backed by assets stolen from Jews, helped funnel millions of dollars into Nazi Germany. Chase also played a key role in blocking access to funds held by Jewish account holders in its Paris branch, in line with Nazi directives. When France was under occupation, Chase's Paris office further restricted the accounts of Jewish customers, denying them access to their savings while allowing Nazi-aligned entities to use the funds. These actions came to light after the war, revealing the extent to which Chase helped Nazi Germany evade economic sanctions and continue its war effort. FBI records later showed that Chase's involvement was more extensive than previously thought, although the bank has never fully addressed its wartime activities in a public manner. 6. Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, one of the largest financial institutions in the world today, played a crucial role in Nazi Germany's economic infrastructure. Like other businesses, Deutsche Bank was deeply involved in the regime's efforts to isolate and exploit Jewish citizens. Early in the Nazi era, Deutsche Bank fired all of its Jewish employees, aligning itself fully with Nazi policies. The bank then played an essential role in Aryanization, the process of seizing Jewish businesses and transferring them to non-Jewish ownership. Deutsche Bank helped finance the Nazi war machine by facilitating transactions that allowed Germany to purchase weapons and raw materials, despite international sanctions. The bank also helped liquidate assets of Jewish individuals and businesses across Europe as the Nazis expanded their occupation. One of the most egregious actions linked to Deutsche Bank was its involvement in selling gold looted from Jews in concentration camps, some of which came from dental fillings taken from victims before their deaths. In the years following the war, Deutsche Bank has made efforts to reconcile with its past, including issuing a formal apology for its role in Nazi crimes, but the shadow of its actions during this dark period still lingers. 5. Ford and General Motors. Ford and General Motors, both iconic American car manufacturers, have a complex legacy when it comes to their involvement with the Nazis. While both companies contributed significantly to the US war effort, they also played a role in supporting Nazi Germany's military operations through their European subsidiaries. By the late 1930s, Ford and GM controlled about 70% of the German automotive market. Their factories were repurposed during the war to manufacture vehicles, aircraft engines, and other military equipment for the Nazis. This included the production of Opel trucks and airplanes used by the Wehrmacht. Both companies profited from the Nazi war effort, and like many other German businesses, they used forced labor to meet wartime production demands. After the war, Ford and GM distanced themselves from their involvement, claiming they lost control of their subsidiaries after the US entered the war. However, documentation from the post-war period suggests that their operations in Germany continued to benefit from wartime production, even after 1941. The US government even compensated these companies for damages to their German plants, which had been producing military vehicles for the Nazis. 4. IBM. IBM, a company that helped revolutionize computing, was indirectly involved in the horrific events of the Holocaust. In 1933, IBM sold its punch card technology to the Nazi regime, which then used these machines to manage and process vast amounts of data. The Nazis used IBM's technology to organize the identification, deportation, and extermination of Jews and other targeted groups across Europe. IBM's punch cards were instrumental in ensuring the efficient operation of Nazi concentration camps. By keeping meticulous records of prisoners, IBM technology helped the Nazis calculate the logistics of transporting millions to their deaths. Despite claims that the company was unaware of how its machines were being used, records show that IBM continued to profit from its business dealings with Nazi Germany throughout the war. After the war, IBM's role in the Holocaust was largely forgotten, although a book by historian Edwin Black, titled Reignited Controversy over the company's wartime activities. Mercedes-Benz, known then as Daimler-Benz, was another major company that fully integrated itself into the Nazi regime's war efforts. The company produced tanks, trucks, and aircraft for the German military, becoming a key supplier of vehicles to the Wehrmacht. During the war, Daimler-Benz relied heavily on slave labor, using prisoners of war, concentration camp inmates, and other forced laborers to keep its production lines running. The company even loaned out its slave workers to other Nazi businesses, participating in the horrific Nazi slave labor system. The conditions for these workers were abysmal, with many dying from overwork, malnutrition, or illness. Despite this, Mercedes-Benz emerged from the war as one of Germany's most successful companies. In the post-war years, Daimler-Benz acknowledged its use of forced labor and contributed to a reparations fund established to compensate survivors. However, its wartime history still casts a long shadow over the company's reputation. Porsche, while not officially founded until 1950, had its origins in wartime Germany. Ferdinand Porsche, the company's founder, was a close ally of Adolf Hitler and designed military vehicles for the Nazis, including tanks and the famous VW Beetle, which was initially intended to be a people's car for ordinary Germans. During the war, Porsche's factories used forced labor, including concentration camp inmates, to produce vehicles and other equipment for the German military. Like other companies that profited from forced labor, Porsche has largely escaped the public scrutiny that has followed other businesses linked to Nazi Germany. However, historians have noted that Ferdinand Porsche's close ties to Hitler and the company's reliance on slave labor during the war are undeniable. The company's leadership has since acknowledged its involvement in wartime atrocities and contributed to compensation efforts for survivors. Volkswagen was born out of Hitler's desire to create an affordable car for the German people, a goal that led to the development of the iconic Volkswagen Beetle. However, during the war, Volkswagen became one of the largest suppliers of military vehicles for the Nazis. The company produced everything from troop carriers to amphibious vehicles used by the Wehrmacht. More disturbing, however, is Volkswagen's extensive use of forced labor, including Jewish prisoners and prisoners of war. The company even set up a concentration camp near one of its factories, where prisoners were forced to work under brutal conditions. Volkswagen's post-war leadership worked hard to distance itself from its Nazi origins, even hiring an independent historian in the 1990s to investigate its wartime activities. Today, the company is one of the world's largest automakers, but its dark past continues to be a part of its legacy. These companies, despite their involvement in Nazi atrocities, have not only survived but thrived in the modern era. While many have taken steps to acknowledge and atone for their pasts, their wartime actions serve as a reminder of how deeply intertwined industry and politics can become, and the lasting impact of those connections on history. By the way, if there's any topic in this video that catches your eye, just comment down below and let me know if you want me to make a separate video on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Wow, you guys have made it till the end of the video. And remember, according to YouTube, the best way to help the channel in the algorithm is to watch another one of my videos right after this one. So go ahead and check it out. Thanks for sticking around. See you soon. Until then, peace.